So we have the queen of tech choices today. And make sure you guys smash the crap out of Cosmo Queen, the queen of prayers, so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. So the Spellcaster Good Stuff pile has been evolving to try to play as many cool side deck, as many main deck, like cool variants that you can kind of slap into these decks. And I actually don't hate the idea of different workable ways to try to make certain interactions actually work. Now, one of the ones that caught my attention was the Cosmo Queen actually showing up. Now, Cosmo Queen is a pretty unique card in the way that it functions, because it's basically an anti-field spell-esque card. So it says, if a field spell is activated, we can source some of this card from our hand in defense position. Then we can target one face-up card in the field zone, and then activate the appropriate effect based on which player controls that card. So if it's yours, destroy it, and if you do, you can add a field spell from your deck to your hand with a different name from that card. Oh, we can search for Secret Village with this. Or if it's our opponent's, we can negate its effects until the end of this turn, and if you do, add a field spell from your deck to your hand. Either way, what you're going to be getting with this is a multi-way to search for different field spells and be able just to get some, honestly, good interactions up and running with things, which is kind of what you want with this deck. Like I said, the Spellcaster Good Stuff pile, especially with like all the Magistus stuff, the fact that, you know, the Fairy Tale stuff just builds into the deck, extremely easy. That's what we're dealing with right now. We're looking at all of these different ways to make this pile actually work. And honestly, at this point in time, if you're slotting this in as a one-of in the side deck and you're actually finding success with it, congratulations. You've actually kind of managed to crack the code, and you've probably come up with something a little bit more innovative than kind of what you were expecting to see. So that's actually kind of nice. Now we have Mind Crush. You know, a lot of people in the TCG still, they hate this card. They're like, I'm never going to play Mind Crush. Okay, well, that's fine. You don't have to like Mind Crush. But right now, when you're in a format where your opponent's revealing cards, where they're forced to actually, you know, take the rotary and do the reveal, and you can actually Mind Crush one of the broken cards out of their hand. That's what you're playing this for. You're playing it for hand knowledge. There's also, anytime you're in a format where cards have to reveal themselves and you're just able to take advantage of that, why would you not want just the ability to do so? That's one thing I genuinely don't understand about this player base. You know, like, well, ever since the ruling changed where, you know, your opponent doesn't have to reveal their hand, you know, I get it. There are other cards in the format, Rotary, where they're able to look at your hand and they're able to get, you know, kind of an unfair advantage based on that. Yeah, it's annoying that they have that, but it's one more little side thing that, you know, the format actually has going for it. And there's not really a lot that we can make the argument for. It's like, well, you know, they do get the ability to get the knowledge, but at the end of the day, that's all there really is to it, you know. So that's where I am on the card. I think the card is still really good. I think that there is a logical reason to still want to try to play the card as an anti-countermeasure to the existing part of the meta. It might not provide you the answers you want to, but it is a symptom of the meta. You know, if we have more hand revealing, more hand access, then combining Mind Crush with those cards that, you know, can either get you into that peak knowledge is good. That's why DD Designator was seeing play. Now it's on Mind Crush. Harmonia and Branded. I did not expect a actual discussion about building Harmonia into Branded of all things. Now, somebody's gonna be like, well, Robbie, actually, doesn't Harmonia actually make it so it invalidates the entire Branded player's, you know, follow-ups? Why, yes, Duelist, Harmonia does actually have a very interesting little effect written on it that says you're not going to be able to do anything with, what is it? You cannot activate the effects of a monster special summon from the extra deck until the end of the next turn after this card effect resolves, except for synchro monsters. Well, in theory, the way that the standard Branded player turn has been going at the moment is a lot of them have cut Branded Fusion from the deck. They're either just using Fallen of the White to kind of toggle up into the synchro value, which, by the way, is in fact a synchro monster, but a lot of the lists are now gravitating towards Nadir Servant, which Nadir Servant's going to basically provide you a lock anyway. So depending on, how the deck itself and how your end boards and so forth are going to look, I mean, you'll just do your fusion summons on your opponent's turn through Blazing Cartesia or, some of the other access points that you have to do it. Branded has evolved into a stage now where it's honestly a little bit more scary to kind of let this deck, just set up its field and then initiate the action during the opponent's turn to kind of clean things up, which is kind of welcoming, honestly. I think it is a genuinely nice change to where things are. So, well, we're going to have to kind of see where, Harmonia and Branded's going to go as a deck choice, but the deck has evolved enough that I think it could actually support it. And then we have kind of like the Sky Striker thing going on right now. Somebody's be like, well, Sky Striker got top 4 at Shonen Jump Columbus. We just seen it come off of a national win. What's going on with Striker? Well, Striker's finally got all of his tools. We finally have managed to get everything that we were missing out of the OCG. We now are genuinely at a stage in the meta where it feels like things are workable right now. And that's good. It's just, from what I've seen in the decks, it's still just going to be a giant spell pile. You push through, go second, try to win the game. Illusion Gates, Board Breakers, these are all going to be great additions to your deck. Also, Control and Lockbird's not really a card right now. So a Sky Striker player can actually build their deck a little bit more securely and just feel like, oh, hey, I feel a little bit more confident. My deck's not going to get blown out in a weird particular scenario. So now they can kind of make the pivot to, whatever end board that it feels like they're going to need to have. And that's fine. I say they're end board, but it's just like, if you have to make a Shisaku pass, like, oh God, like, if you don't finish the job with Striker and your opponent has recoverability, unless you have, like, defensive Widow Anchors, womp womp. Trust me. That's kind of the scenario. But I think with the way Sky Striker is right now, especially, like, with Camellia in the Radiant Typhoon package, being able to bridge you into the Sky Striker package while getting at least a spell or two into the graveyard, it's actually really, really cool. I do appreciate that. They actually did this deck justice by actually upping its consistency and actually getting it places. So you actually get a pass from me, Konami. You've somehow managed to do this. And then we still have the floating discussion of the Power Patron deck in the background. Coming off of Jeff Jones's build, right now this deck it's gaining a lot of discussion. I can't even really say it's gained a lot of momentum, because the way that this deck functions, like, you've got a Morphage Shallow, which is just kind of a pseudo FTK because players don't have outs to handle these things. You have, well, I mean, when you're looking at kind of the rest of the pool of things, you have the FTK that goes with it, and then your deck's just massively consistent. Like, you would think a deck that can FTK, pseudo FTK through the Amorphage stuff, and then, actually have the FTK. You can put a 5k towers on the field, which is unaffected by anything. By the way, I said it's 10k. A deck that can kind of consistently do this, you would think that the deck wouldn't be necessarily as crazy powerful, or it should be as crazy powerful as it actually seems. But I think this is the first time that we've had a deck kind of entering into the room that's on this scale of power, and it's not really being respected. A lot of the pro players are like, yeah, this deck is very, very broken, but it's like, it's not scaling correctly for things. So I don't know. It's very interesting to kind of talk about where that one's going. So time will tell. But I wanted to mention, like, the little tech choices and, like, the meta swings here, because there's some very interesting things being discussed in the background that just feel weird. But what do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.